Our next section is about visual perception. Now, Educanda already has a full video online available on visual perception, and the whole topic is unpacked quite clearly. But today, I just want to touch on the impact of visual perception specifically on handwriting. Visual perception is the ability to make sense of what you see. So you would look at something, and because you have prior knowledge, you can place it in context. If you've never seen an object, you would try and find something in your mind that's similar or that you can align to make sense. And when a learner has problems with visual perception, it impacts on not just handwriting, but on quite a number of other learning areas. If the learner has the problem with visual perception, in your child's writing, you will see that they space poorly, very poor spacing. They sometimes write and they try and fit the whole sentence into the line, so they have big spacing at the beginning and they squash everything right at the end of the line. Or they have uneven letters. Your capital letters are even smaller than your lowercase letters, things like that. Or they write hopelessly too big or very, very small. Or when they copy from the blackboard, they skip a line and they just copy incorrectly because there's just one line that they've left out. Or they might make a mistake with the sequencing of what they are copying. For instance, it's 148 on the blackboard, and by the time they write it, it's written down as 184, which obviously has dire consequences if you're doing maths. Another problem that could arise is that they might have problems with memory, remembering what they've seen, or that when they have to copy or they have to write, they can't find their place where they're supposed to do that. Or it could be that it contributes to reversals, where they write letters the wrong way round and numbers the wrong way round. You could also find that when you look at their handwriting, they've mixed up uppercase and lowercase, and in the middle of the sentence you suddenly have a capital letter for no reason whatsoever. So those are the learners that shows you a red flag towards they are battling with their handwriting because of a visual perceptual problem. So it's not so much that it is the handwriting that they have difficulty with. It is the visual perception. And that is why you need to address the visual perception if you want to support them. So you have to concentrate on their body awareness. Do they know their body and the different functions and where the joints are, and can they move freely? And are they well coordinated? You need to look at whether they can build puzzles, maybe introduce a couple more puzzles for them to build, work on their memory, and sometimes it helps to put frames around work so that they can focus on where they are copying from or where they are copying to. But like I said, we've got a whole video on visual perception, so I'm just touching on this in this video. So that would be your learner with visual perception problems. The next aspect that we're going to look at that could create a problem for your learner in class would be praxis. Praxis is a big word for motor planning, being able to plan a movement in your head, and then the brain sends the message and you execute the movement. Now, what we have as human beings is we have the ability to remember movements and patterns of movements. So that, and writing is in essence a pattern that we write. So you can remember how your hand moved when you wrote a letter of the alphabet, that is. But a child with a problem of praxis, who has poor motor planning, does not have that ability. They are the learners whom you can learn to ride a bike. It takes them ages, but they learn to ride a bike and they can manage their own bike. And as soon as they get onto the bike of a friend, they suddenly can't ride a bike anymore because there's something different. They don't have that ability to adapt just that little bit to see what is familiar, what is the same, and what is slightly different. So we see with these learners, specifically with handwriting, that every time they use a different pen or pencil, their handwriting deteriorates. They suddenly cannot form the letters correctly because now the pencil is more blunt, or it has just been sharpened, or it is now a coloring in pencil. And it impacts heavily on their ability to learn how to form the letters and how to execute neat, legible handwriting. The ability to perform the movement correctly is only stowed in the brain for that particular pen or pencil and not for any other. They don't have that ability to transfer. So what you see with them is that they're not always sure where the letter starts. And you have to teach letter formation as an absolute essential skill. You must overteach letter formation to help these learners. And you have to repeat your letter formation and the forming of the letter over and over. And this is the only group of learners where I would say that practice makes perfect. Remember, with some of the other aspects that we've spoken about, like postural control and hand function and visual perception, I did not say that you need to practice handwriting per se over and over. Here, I'm telling you that these learners need practice to make it perfect. You need to break down the formation of the letters into chunks that they can understand. For instance, if you take the letters D, K, H, that all start with a line going down and then the rest happens. So you break it into chunks and you first just teach them to start at the top and go down. Start at the top and go down. And then you introduce what is added to that letter. And that's on the level where they're still learning the print font. It needs to be over-taught. And they have to do a lot of repetition for them to fully understand that. You also have to show them what is the same with some letters, like the D and the A is in essence the same letter, only the D has a long stick. So they know that they have to do the boop first and then draw the stick, and it has to touch. So they can see that similarity, then it's like they can hook it onto something in their brain and it just makes more sense for them. Another way to approach a child who has poor ability to motor plan is to introduce lots and lots of obstacle courses, because it teaches the body to adapt. You change just one aspect of the obstacle course and the child has to learn to cope with that. I find working with the complete motor skills set is quite an asset, because it's a nice set where you can do rotation around the body axis, you can do midline crossing, you can do crawling, and you can also change something small and help the child who has a praxis problem. So it becomes a solution for whole class, better handwriting. That brings us to the end of the section where we discussed the 4 bottom aspects, the lower tier of the Bruni model. Next, we will talk about left-handers.